God's chosen ones. Chosen, one heaven has interrupted this moment for you. This is not a coincidence. This is not an algorithm glitch. This is divine intervention. A supernatural pause in time where the veil is lifted and your spirit is called by name. You were never random. You were always chosen. Before the foundations of the world were laid, God looked into the future and whispered your name into eternity. You were not born to blend in. You were born to disrupt, to awaken, to carry light into places that have forgotten the sound of glory. Jeremiah 1:5 confirms it boldly. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. There's a weight to your existence. You felt it your entire life. That unshakable knowing that you were different. You never fit in, and you weren't meant to. Your isolation was not a curse. It was a cocoon. Your silence wasn't abandonment. It was heaven's strategy. They looked at you and saw the ordinary, but God saw a concealed weapon of glory. They thought you were being overlooked, but heaven was preserving you for this very hour. You were hidden because premature exposure would have cost you your crown. Every tear you've cried in silence, every spiritual battle you fought alone, every season of confusion, it was all heaven's preparation room. You weren't being punished. You were being processed. What crushed others is what awakened you. Isaiah 54:17 assures us with these words, "No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper." You are not hearing this by mistake. Your spirit is leaping because this word is your mirror. You recognize the sound because it was carved into your bones before you had language to understand it. You were marked by fire. Heaven has been calling, and now your ears are finally tuned. This world is dark. The hour is late. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. That's why God is activating the hidden ones. You, chosen one, have been trained in silence, refined in pain, and kept in mystery for such a time as this. You don't need everyone to understand you. You only need to remember who you are. When you were weeping, God was watching. When you were breaking, angels were standing by. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are heaven's strategy in motion. Everything you've endured has built a foundation of spiritual authority. What you've survived, you now carry victory over. The trauma didn't destroy you, it crowned you. The wilderness didn't erase you, it forged you. There are mantles falling in this hour, and one of them bears your name. You've asked, why has my life been so hard? Because you're not common. You're not weak. The level of your warfare reveals the weight of your calling. Hell doesn't attack empty vessels. The resistance proves the revelation you carry. Chosen one. The time is now. Not next year. Not next season. Now. Heaven has been waiting for your yes. The earth is groaning for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God, and that includes you. This is your signal. Your green light, your activation moment. Don't delay. Don't question your worth another day. What God put in you is not optional. It's essential. Your obedience is someone else's deliverance. The spiritual realm is shifting. Atmospheres are opening, and the tribe is rising. God is not just calling individuals, He is assembling a remnant. Scattered, misunderstood, hidden, but powerful beyond words. And you are one of them. Comment 777 below as a prophetic sign. I hear the call. I accept the mantle. Heaven did not stop everything for a motivational speech. Heaven stopped everything because this is your summons. The signal has been sent. The lion inside of you is being awakened. You were born for this. You are not broken. You are being built. You are not disqualified. You are being delivered. The enemy has tried everything to silence your voice. But even now, your spirit is roaring louder than your fears. Synchronizing. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for applause. Don't wait for perfect conditions. You carry the sound of revival in your breath and the weight of generations in your bones. Let today be the day your spirit remembers. Chosen one, heaven has sounded the alarm. You've been hidden for long enough. Now, be revealed. They didn't see it. They couldn't see it. Because God covered you. You've spent years wondering why doors didn't open, why the recognition never came, why certain opportunities slipped through your fingers just when they seemed within reach. You were qualified. You were ready, or so you thought. But in the unseen realm, something greater was being orchestrated. Chosen one. Heaven hid you. This was never rejection. It was always redirection. Protection disguised as delay. You weren't denied, you were disguised. God's hand covered you, not to punish, but to preserve. There were places you prayed to enter, and God blocked you, not because you weren't worthy, but because your assignment was too sacred for contamination. You were hidden in plain sight, surrounded by noise but untouched by the crowd. And while others ran ahead, building platforms and gathering applause, God was taking you deep. The hiding season felt unfair, painful, lonely, but it was the soil of your becoming. Moses spent 40 years in Midian before leading a nation. David returned to the fields, even after he was anointed king. Joseph spent years in prison before he ever saw the palace. Why? Because the hiding season builds what the spotlight cannot. You thought nothing was happening, but while you wept, God was weaving. While you waited, God was watching. You were being refined by fire, not forgotten in it. God's silence was not his absence, it was his strategy. You weren't invisible, you were in incubation. In that quiet season, God pruned you. He stripped you of false identity. He peeled back layers of people-pleasing, insecurity, and performance. He taught you to hear him in whispers, so you wouldn't be deceived by the shouts of men. He made you immune to flattery, so you wouldn't be seduced by platforms. Your hiding was divine. There are spiritual things you now discern with sharpness, because in hiding, your ears were trained. You learned the rhythm of heaven's voice. You learned to walk by obedience, not applause. To pray without needing to be seen. To serve without needing to be celebrated. That is why you're dangerous now. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Psalm 91. The secret place wasn't just where you were kept. It's where you were made. Some looked at your life and assumed you were behind. They counted you out. But heaven never operated by human timelines. God has always used hiding to prepare his weapons. And you, chosen one, are a weapon. A blade formed in obscurity. A voice sharpened by solitude. In the hidden places, God taught you endurance. When people walked away, you stayed. When others sought platforms, you sought presence. And that is why you're rising with depth, not just charisma. With oil, not just ambition. Do you remember the days you felt forgotten? The nights you wrestled with your worth? The seasons where your prayers felt like echoes in an empty cave? Heaven saw it all. None of it was wasted. In fact, it was all recorded. The oil you carry now wasn't bought cheaply. It was crushed out of you in the secret place. Every no you heard, every not yet, was God saying, I'm not releasing you until you're ready to carry the weight of what's coming. Others were launched. You were buried. But like a seed, your burial was the beginning of your blooming. The deeper you went, the stronger your roots. Now, when the winds of warfare come, you won't be shaken. Because while others were building brands, you were building altars. Your hiding is the reason your voice will now carry weight in the spirit. Not because of charisma, but because of consecration. You don't speak from theory, you speak from survival. You've lived what others only preach. When God hides a person, it's because he plans to reveal them with authority. And that's what's happening now. The seal is breaking. The cocoon is splitting. The obscurity is ending. Not because you forced your way into visibility, but because heaven is revealing what it has refined, and it had to happen this way. If you were seen too soon, your anointing would have been mishandled, your destiny misunderstood. God was not just preparing you, he was preparing the world to receive you. And now, the ground is ready. The hour has come. The tribe is stirring. There's a sound in the earth, and your spirit hears it. You're no longer waiting on the next sign. You are the sign. This moment is not about arrival, it's about emergence. You're stepping into visibility with depth, with humility, and with heaven's backing. What God has built in secret is about to shift atmospheres in public. Remember this. The ones who are hidden longest are often revealed the fastest. The ones trained in fire move in authority that others can't fake. You don't need validation from those who missed your process. The same God who hid you is now revealing you. Let him do it. And when people ask, where did you come from? Just smile. Because you'll know, you came from the secret place. You were hidden for a reason. You thought you were alone. But something strange kept happening. A post would appear that said, everything you were feeling. A stranger would speak a word that pierced your soul. You started noticing the same numbers, seeing signs, hearing phrases that echoed the stirrings inside your chest. What you didn't realize, chosen one, is that God was beginning to synchronize the tribe. The chosen are never truly alone. We are scattered, but not separated, hidden, but not forgotten, across nations, languages, and timelines. God has marked a people for himself. And now they are being drawn together. You're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're not imagining things. You're picking up on the sound of the awakening. And those who carry your spiritual DNA, they're hearing it too. They've walked through the same fires, cried the same tears, felt the same ache in their bones, that holy discontent that refuses to let them settle for mediocrity. This is the tribe, and you are part of it. Isaiah 43:19 proclaims it clearly. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? The world is loud. The noise is endless. But amidst it all, there's a frequency only the remnant can hear. It's not in the headlines. It's not in the crowds. It's in the whisper. The same whisper that called Elijah out of the cave. That same whisper is calling you into community. You've always known there were others. You just didn't know where to find them. But you weren't supposed to find them. They were supposed to find you. And you them, at the right time. The time when your spirit could recognize theirs. That time is now. The tribe is finding each other not through man's strategy, but heaven's signal. It's not about race, geography, or denomination. It's not about title or platform. It's about alignment in the spirit. There is a remnant that carries the same oil, the same weight, the same fire, and the moment they connect, the world shifts. Something is happening in the earth. You can feel it. The same spiritual frequency that woke you up at 3 a.m. with a sudden knowing that same urgency is stirring others. The dreamers are waking up. The warriors are rising. The ones who've been on the sidelines are stepping into position. God never builds alone. He always builds a body, an army, a family. Even Jesus didn't walk alone. He moved with those assigned to him. And so will you. This is the hour of divine collaboration, of supernatural connection. No more striving to be seen. No more fighting for recognition. The ones who carry what you carry will find you by the Spirit. And when they do, your anointings will multiply. When iron sharpens iron, fire spreads. When the remnant finds each other, strongholds crumble. This is not a social movement, it's a spiritual migration. The lonely are being linked, the scattered are being gathered, and the scattered flame is becoming wildfire. Let your spirit discern this. If you've felt the ache to connect, the longing for your people, it's because the time has come. God is revealing those who will not just tolerate you, but understand you, not just support you, but run with you. You were never meant to build alone. The vision God gave you is too weighty for one person. That's why He's connecting you to those who've been prepared in parallel. You've been through different storms, but you carry the same rain. The tribe isn't built on comfort. It's built on covenant, on spiritual agreement, on shared fire. And when that kind of unity is birthed, nothing can stop it. Deuteronomy 32:30 reveals this dynamic truth. One can chase 1,000, but two can put 10,000 to flight. You are not the only one. You are not the last one. You are one of many anointed, refined, dangerous to darkness. And now, heaven is calling you to recognize your own kind. It will be a divine recognition, a connection that doesn't need long explanations. You'll meet people who just get it, who speak your language in the Spirit, who carry the same urgency, who've been marked by God in secret, just like you. When that happens, don't run, don't shrink, don't disqualify yourself. You've been prepared for this moment. You're not just part of the tribe, you're needed by the tribe. Your voice, your oil, your scars, your wisdom, it's all valuable. And when you show up in full authenticity, you give others permission to do the same. There is no competition in the kingdom. The tribe celebrates, not competes. It sharpens, not sabotages. And you, chosen one, are being welcomed in. You've been hidden. You've been prepared. Now, you're being positioned. This isn't just encouragement, it's confirmation. The Spirit inside you has already been whispering this. This message is simply heaven's echo. You are not alone. Comment 999 below. There was a moment, maybe more than one, when you thought, this will break me. A storm so fierce, a betrayal so sharp, a pressure so relentless, you thought it would swallow you whole. But here you are, breathing, wiser, quieter, stronger. You didn't just survive, something in you was activated. Chosen one. You have to understand this. What tried to destroy you actually unlocked you. What came to bury you dug out the very thing that God planted in you. The pain wasn't pointless. The warfare wasn't wasted. It was the refining fire necessary to awaken the sleeping giant within you. God does not waste suffering. In His hands, the enemy's attacks become the very soil that grows your authority. And the reason the attacks were so intense is because of what you carry. You weren't being hit for what you had done, you were being hit for who you were about to become. You thought it was personal, but this wasn't about your past. It was about your future. The enemy saw it before you did. He saw the oil forming. He saw your sensitivity to the Spirit, your hunger for truth, your refusal to compromise. He knew that if you ever woke up to who you really were, you would become a wrecking ball to his agenda. So he came early. He tried to crush your confidence, attack your identity, twist your mind. He sent people to wound you, to confuse you, to make you question your place in the world. But what he didn't realize is that pain purifies, and all he did was drive you deeper into God's presence. As it's written in Romans, Sheba, the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. You may not have known it then, but every tear was watering something holy. Every heartbreak was pressing oil. Every wilderness season was stretching your spirit to hold greater weight. And now you know what it feels like to fight and not faint, to bleed and not break, to cry and still stand. That's authority. That's real anointing. Not bought in comfort, but earned in fire. You were never weak. You were in training. The rejection made you rely on God. The silence taught you to hear His whisper. The betrayal pushed you closer to His truth. Every single thing that hurt you also healed something inside you. That's the paradox of the chosen. What wounds others awakens you. What ends others births you. And now you carry a power that can't be faked. You carry empathy. Because you've walked through hell and still chose holiness. You carry authority. Because you didn't give up when you had every reason to. Don't minimize your scars. They are evidence that you've been forged by God, not just called by Him. Many are called, but few are chosen. And the chosen ones bleed differently. They rise differently. The pain didn't come to stay. It came to shape you, to strip off the layers of who you thought you were, so heaven could reveal who you really are. And now you can't go back. Even if you tried, the taste of purpose won't let you settle. The echo of destiny is too loud. The wounds don't haunt you anymore. They remind you, I survived what was meant to destroy me. You're not bitter. You're wiser. You're not broken. You're built. You're not traumatized. You're trained. God saw the end from the beginning. He knew that the very fire meant to consume you would refine you, that the very voices that mocked you would prepare you to speak with boldness, that the places of your deepest pain would become wells of healing for others. You don't just carry a story, you carry power. That betrayal taught you discernment. That disappointment taught you patience. That season of lack taught you to depend on nothing but Him. You were being made, not ruined. And now, you walk differently. There's a quiet strength in you now, a stillness that unnerves the enemy. You're not easily shaken anymore. You've learned that some storms are sent not to break you, but to reveal what was unshakable in you all along. Job declared in chapter 13, verse 15, Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. That is the cry of the remnant, the cry of those who've lost everything and still held on to God. The cry of those who've seen the worst and still believe for the best. The cry of those who walk out of the fire not smelling like smoke, but glowing with glory. This is who you are now. The version of you that fear tried to kill didn't die, it multiplied. You're wiser now, more dangerous now, because now you know that the enemy cannot take what God has ordained. Now you move with purpose. You're not swayed by opinions. You don't crave approval. You've already been approved by fire, and there's no going back to normal. Normal broke you. Comfort dulled you. It was the crushing that clarified who you really are. Chosen one. This is why you're rising now. You've walked through hell. You've prayed in the dark. You've praised with empty hands. And you never stopped. Now it's time for the revealing, not because you demanded a spotlight, but because heaven is showing the world what was forged in secret. You've been activated. You felt it for a while now, that strange resistance every time you tried to move forward, as if something invisible kept pulling you back, delaying your steps, distorting your clarity, fogging your mind. You've questioned yourself, wondered if maybe you missed God, if maybe you weren't ready. But chosen one, hear this. The spirit of delay is breaking. This isn't about procrastination. This is spiritual warfare. There's been a fog sent to keep you second-guessing yourself, doubting your timing, sitting on assignments. Heaven already greenlit. It's not that you weren't ready, it's that darkness hoped to confuse your readiness. But God says, now, the chains that made you question your voice, the mental fog that clouded your judgment, the heaviness that lingered over your days, all of it is lifting. Heaven is severing what hell tried to bind. The delay wasn't God's doing. It was resistance. But no resistance lasts forever, especially not against the will of the King. 2 Peter 3:9 affirms this truth. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. This is the hour where clarity will replace confusion, where movement will replace stagnation, where boldness will replace timidity. You were never stuck. You were being supernaturally recalibrated. God allowed the delay to expose the distraction, to break your dependency on the wrong systems, to train you to recognize his voice above all others. The pause wasn't wasted, it was strategic. But the time for pause has passed. Now, you move. And when you move, don't apologize for the acceleration. Don't water down the fire you carry just because others are still sleeping. The window of favor is opening wide. There are divine opportunities attached to your name, but they're not for the passive. They're for the positioned. You've already been prepared. The shaking you endured in previous seasons was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to unlock you. The enemy's goal with delay is always the same: to wear you out until you forfeit what is already yours. But you held on. You kept praying. You kept watching. And now, heaven is responding. There's a quickening coming. What took others years will take you months. What drained you before will now flow with ease. There's a supernatural grace being released to finish the assignments you thought were lost. Even projects you abandoned in weariness will come back to life. Some of you have manuscripts to finish, visions to launch, messages to preach, songs to release. You've sat on them for months, even years, because the weight of the delay made you feel disqualified. But now, breathe again, create again, move again. The green light is not coming. The green light is here. God is clearing every spiritual traffic jam, the heaviness that lingered over your plans. your goals, your voice. It's lifting now. Doors are not just opening, they're swinging wide with urgency. Because what you carry is not for next year. It's for this moment. You're not being rushed, you're being released. That divine nudge you feel to start speaking, it's real. That idea that won't leave you alone. It's not just ambition, it's assignment. Heaven is placing fire in your bones, and delay can no longer hold it back. This is the time to act boldly, not recklessly, but obediently. There is a favor on movement, a favor on surrender. And when you align with God's timing, acceleration is inevitable. But remember, this isn't about striving. This isn't about doing more in your strength. This is about flowing in His strength. When heaven says move, all you have to do is obey. The weight is no longer on you to make it happen. Your job is obedience. God handles the outcome. And chosen one. When you move with God, you don't move alone. Angels are assigned to go before you, behind you, and around you. This is your release notice. So build the thing, launch the thing, say the thing, go where He's sending. Do it afraid if you must, but do it. The fog is clearing. The time is ripe. And if you don't act now, you risk missing the open window. Heaven isn't slowing down. Don't let fear talk you out of movement. Don't let memories of failure paralyze you into inaction. The season has shifted, and you must shift with it. Your delay has expired. If this word has stirred something in your spirit, let it bear fruit. Share this message with someone else who's been waiting too long. There are others who've been stuck, not because they're unworthy, but because no one told them the green light has already come. You can help awaken another chosen one just by pressing share. That click is more than a gesture, it's participation in someone's breakthrough. And if you know this ministry has spoken into your life, consider subscribing to stay aligned with what God is doing in this season. Every word matters. Every moment counts. If you feel led, and you want to sow into the message or support the voice that's helped confirm what you already knew in your spirit, we invite you to give. No pressure, just obedience. Your seed, big or small, helps amplify this divine signal to reach more of the tribe. But more than anything, move. Don't let another week go by sitting on divine instruction. The wait is over. The time is now. The spirit of delay is breaking. Everything that could shake, shook. The foundations cracked. The things you thought were unmovable started trembling. People walked away. Resource dried up. Silence screamed. And through it all, you were being summoned. Not abandoned. Summoned. Chosen one. That shaking wasn't punishment. It was promotion in disguise. You see, before God elevates, He separates. Before He builds, He breaks. And before He releases glory, He removes the ground beneath your idols. The shaking wasn't to ruin you. It was to refine you. We are reminded in Hebrews 12, Arshilil, this is what the Lord Almighty says. Once more I will shake not only the earth but also the heavens. And of faith, you prayed for purpose, and the answer came wrapped in disruption. You cried out for clarity, and He answered with collapse. He removed the relationships, the comforts, the familiar patterns not to harm you, but to summon your spirit out of survival mode and into destiny. It hurt because you were attached to what God was trying to detach. The more it fell apart, the more He was aligning you with what could not be shaken. Some things had to go. Some people couldn't stay. That platform had to break. That connection had to crumble. because what you're being called to carry could never sit on a cracked foundation. God wasn't shaking your life to destroy you. He was shaking everything that didn't have permission to go into your next season. He allowed the shaking to awaken you, to bring your ears into alignment. You started hearing differently, seeing differently. You didn't even pray the same. Something shifted, something unlocked, and that was the point. What came to break you actually revealed what was unshakable in you. You endured loss, but didn't lose your faith. You endured silence, but didn't lose your fire. You endured confusion, but never lost your calling. That's proof. That's legacy. That's strength the enemy can't touch. You've been recalibrated in fire. The things that used to soothe your insecurity now feel empty. The voices that used to guide you now feel hollow. That's not confusion. That's growth. The shaking reordered your affections, rewired your cravings, realigned your prayers. And in the rubble, something eternal was born. Now you walk differently, not with pride, but with clarity. Not with arrogance, but with authority. You've seen too much, lost too much, grown too deep to ever be shallow again. God has summoned you. He didn't just rescue you. He recommissioned you. The breaking wasn't an ending. It was a burning bush moment, a turning point, a holy pivot. The fire that threatened you now fuels you. The loss that scarred you now marks you. This is the hour of emergence. No more hiding behind still healing. No more camouflaging your anointing to make others comfortable. The world is shaking. Yes, but you were forged for instability. You were trained in the quake. You found God in the fault line. And now, you move with an unshakable kingdom. Hebrews 12:28 declares, "Since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful." You've been summoned by heaven. The alarm has sounded, not for panic, but for purpose. So let the old fall. Let what was be buried. You're not going back to what broke you. You're not rebuilding what God removed. This is a new path, and you've been marked to walk it. What others fear, you were born to face. What others avoid, you're called to confront. Not because you're stronger, but because you're sealed. And now, everything is different. You pray, and heaven moves. You speak, and things shift. You walk into rooms, and atmospheres respond. Not because of you, but because of what's on you. The shaking woke you up. The summoning activated you. And the fire didn't consume you, it crowned you. Comment 444 below. You've always felt it, even when you couldn't explain it. A weight in your chest, a tension in your spirit, a fire you couldn't extinguish, a knowing that you were different, marked, watched. You didn't fit in. No matter how hard you tried, you weren't wired to blend, you were wired to blaze. Hell has always feared your awakening. Long before you had language for what you carried, darkness recognized it. The enemy saw the fingerprints of heaven on your soul, the blueprint of your destiny etched into the marrow of your being. And so, the attacks came early. The confusion, the identity crises, the whispered lies in your childhood, the repeated feelings of unworthiness, the trauma that found you before you had a chance to fight. But those were never accidents. They were carefully strategized attempts to kill your identity before you could carry your assignment. The enemy didn't fear your potential, he feared your activation. Because a chosen one fully awakened, that's a threat hell can't manage. You've walked through battles others couldn't survive. And through it all, something in you remained intact. Fragile, maybe. Quiet, perhaps, but never destroyed. Because inside you is a core of fire that darkness can't touch. Not because of who you are, but because of whose you are. When heaven marks someone, hell takes notice. That's why the pressure has always been heavier for you. Why the warfare was more intense. Why the losses stung deeper and the attacks were more personal. Because your presence alone threatens darkness. You don't even have to speak to disrupt the atmosphere. You walk in, and demons sense movement in the spirit. The very light you carry agitates what's dormant in others. That's why you've been misunderstood, avoided, rejected, because your light exposed. And what darkness fears most is exposure. It is written in Ephesians 5:3. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. You've lived this. You've seen people turn cold without reason. Opportunities collapse last minute. Peace disappear the moment you stepped into your assignment. That wasn't coincidence. That was spiritual collision. You carry a frequency that wakes the sleeping and irritates the counterfeit. Even when you were unaware, your presence carried weight. That's why you've always been sensitive to atmospheres. Why you pick up on unspoken tensions. Why you feel drained around certain people. Your spirit is alert, even when your mind is quiet. Because you're not just called, you're spiritually equipped. The prophetic edge you carry isn't something you asked for. It's something you were born into. And it took years for you to recognize it. You thought you were just overthinking, that you were too emotional. But now you know those were the first signs of spiritual sensitivity. And now, the enemy's worst fear is coming true. You're awakening. You're no longer explaining away what you discern. You're no longer suppressing what you sense. You're no longer quieting your voice to stay comfortable, because you've seen too much, felt too much, lost too much. And now, you refuse to go back to sleep. You've been quiet long enough. The dreams that wouldn't let you rest, the feelings that wouldn't leave your chest, the burden to pray at midnight, the tears that flowed without words. All of it was God preparing you, teaching your spirit to lead when logic failed. And now, you're dangerous, not because you seek attention, but because you carry truth, not because you want titles, but because you walk in authority. You carry something hell cannot counterfeit. Authentic fire, refined in pain, proven in silence, activated in obedience. The enemy's tactic now is simple: distraction. If he can't kill your calling, he'll try to dilute it. If he can't silence your voice, he'll try to scatter your focus. But you're too alert for that now. You've seen the patterns. You've recognized the cycles, the delay loops, the spiritual fog, the counterfeit connections. They don't work anymore. Because your discernment has matured, you're no longer falling for the same traps. And that's what hell fears. Because once a chosen one wakes up, the entire region shifts. Revival doesn't come through crowds. It begins with one burning one awakened heart, one voice that won't bow to culture, one spirit that says, "Not on my watch." That's you. Don't underestimate your presence. The storm you survived now obeys your voice. The pain that tried to crush you is now your platform. The weakness you used to hide is now the very place his power rests. That's why you've been kept. You may have wandered, but you were never lost. You may have been broken, but you were never discarded. You've been carried, held, protected, Even when you didn't feel it, the hand of God shielded you from what you couldn't even name. And now, you're here, standing on the other side of the fire, eyes clearer, spirit louder, light stronger. You were once asleep, but no more. Hell fears that sound. There is a sound that heaven recognizes. It's not the volume of your voice or the eloquence of your words, it's the frequency of obedience. And when a chosen one begins to speak in alignment with heaven, realms shift, chains break, darkness flees, because your voice, when surrendered, becomes a weapon. You don't realize how powerful it is. You've spent years silencing yourself, holding back, second-guessing whether what you felt was valid, whether your words carried any weight. You were conditioned by trauma to believe that silence meant safety. But in the kingdom, silence can mean stagnation. And you were not born to be silent. As it's written in Proverbs 18, Arshayi, death and life are in the power of the tongue. God has placed a weapon in your mouth. And not just any weapon, a sword. Not to wound in flesh, but to pierce in spirit. To cut through deception. To release truth. To break generational strongholds with a sentence. To loose destiny with a whisper. The enemy's tactic has always been the same. Keep you quiet. Make you doubt yourself. Convince you to play small. Muzzle your mouth with fear of judgment. Fear of failure. Fear of not being ready. But none of those fears were yours to carry. They were lies planted to keep your sword sheathed. What happens when you speak? Things tremble. Not because you shout, but because what you carry has been cultivated in secret. You don't need to be loud, you need to be clear. And when clarity hits the air, confusion cannot stay. There are assignments attached to your voice, chains that will only break when you declare, people whose healing will only be unlocked when you release the word, atmospheres that will only shift when you open your mouth. It's not arrogance, it's assignment. You don't speak to be heard, you speak to obey. Every time you release a word God gave you, you align heaven and earth. You restore balance. You call light back into places that have been overtaken by shadows. And the beautiful mystery, you don't even have to understand the full weight of what you say. Sometimes, it's not even for you to understand, it's simply for you to release. There are words inside you that have been waiting for years to be spoken, not into microphones or stages, but into living rooms, into prayer closets, into midnight air where no one else is awake. Words that heal, words that bind up, words that war in the spirit. The enemy tried to convince you your voice was useless because he knew what would happen when you found your sound. It's not the sound of comparison. It's not the sound of imitation. It's not the echo of someone else's anointing. It's the raw, refined, obedient sound that only you carry. The one that came out of midnight prayers, out of holy desperation, out of wrestling matches between your soul and spirit. That sound is precious, and now it must be released. You've held it back long enough. You've given fear too much ground. But this isn't the season of retreat. It's the season of release. You can't wait until you feel ready. Readiness is not a feeling, it's a command. When God touches your mouth, it's not a suggestion, it's a commissioning, as we see in Jeremiah 1, Jew. Then the Lord reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, I have put my words in your mouth, that you were never meant to parrot others. You were meant to prophesy, not in a religious sense, but in the kingdom sense, to declare what heaven is saying. Even when earth hasn't caught up, And it doesn't take a platform. It takes obedience. You'll speak, and someone's spirit will leap. You'll pray, and demons will lose grip. You'll write, and people will read with tears streaming down their face because something ancient inside them remembers the truth you're releasing. This is not exaggeration. This is what happens when a chosen one finds their voice. And it's not just public words, it's the private ones too. What you say over yourself matters. The enemy's most successful scheme is to make you curse your own calling, to speak death over what God declared as life. You must become ruthless with your inner dialogue. Every lie must be cast down, every false narrative silenced, every fearful prediction replaced with prophetic declaration. You must speak life consistently, relentlessly, unapologetically. And when you do, you'll start to feel a shift. You'll sense peace where chaos once ruled. You'll see progress where there was only paralysis, because your voice, aligned with God, builds. That is your inheritance. That is your authority. Not just to survive, but to declare, to disrupt, to deliver. So let the sword be unsheathed. Let the words take form. Let the decrees begin. You don't need permission. Heaven already gave it. You've been silent long enough. Let there be sound. You've looked around at your life and wondered, am I losing it? The weight, the sensitivity, the moments when your heart feels like it's breaking for no reason, the isolation, the spiritual pressure that you can't explain to anyone around you. You tried to pray it away, tried to numb it, tried to escape it, but it stayed. Chosen one. You are not crazy. You are called. This isn't anxiety. This isn't emotional instability. This is the tension of a mantle resting on someone who's been chosen to carry what most people can't even perceive. You are carrying something holy, and your spirit knows it. You walk into rooms and feel what others pretend doesn't exist. You're awakened in the middle of the night with a burden you can't name. You sense shifts in people before they say a word. That's not paranoia. That's prophetic sensitivity. Paul reminds us in Romans 11, Arshadjo, for the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. You've been called. You can't undo it. You can't unfeel it. You can't go back to being numb or normal. The veil has been torn from your eyes. And no matter how much you want to fit in, you're not wired for the crowd. You were carved for consecration. That unease in your chest, that pull in your gut, it's not confusion. It's spiritual awareness. You've been carrying weight without a label, feeling like you don't belong anywhere, struggling to describe what you're going through because there's no language for the kind of spiritual formation happening inside you. You're in a divine wrestle, but you're not losing. You're being aligned. This is what it looks like to be called before you're celebrated. This is what it feels like to be entrusted with vision that hasn't yet manifested. You're not out of sync. You're ahead of your season. And that dissonance is stretching you, but don't misread it. You're not unstable. You're sensitive. You're discerning. You're picking up frequencies from heaven. And sometimes that awareness feels like anxiety. But it's not fear, it's fire. It's the fire of calling, awakening, what religion couldn't reach. You can't fake peace in a place where your spirit knows it doesn't belong. You can't fake joy around people whose energy drains your spirit. You're not being dramatic. You're being set apart. That's why you've always been a little different. You've always been the one who asked deeper questions. The one who couldn't just go along with the crowd. The one who noticed things others ignored. It wasn't a flaw. It was formation. You've carried weight others never saw. You've felt invisible. but not to God. Heaven has had eyes on you since the beginning, and now your spirit is awakening to what has been true all along. You're not crazy. You're carrying kingdom responsibility. That's why the warfare increased. That's why the enemy sent confusion. Because the moment you realize your sensitivity is spiritual, not emotional, you become a weapon. As declared in Ephesians 1, Shabbat, that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened, in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you. You become the one who sees before others do, who hears the shift in the spirit before it shows up in the natural, and that makes you dangerous to darkness. You were called before you were comfortable. That explains the tension, the pull between who you used to be and who God is making you into. The ache that shows up when you're around surface-level conversations. The silence that wraps around you when you try to suppress what you feel. You're being trained to carry revelation. Not just information. You're not being ignored. You're being preserved. There are things God is doing in your inner life right now that will make sense later. The dreams, the disruptions, the delays. It's all spiritual preparation. Don't let the enemy talk you out of what God is birthing in you. Even now, as you read this, your spirit is confirming. This is not random. You're being reminded that you are not alone. There is a remnant who feels what you feel, who sees what you see, and who is being activated just like you. You're not strange, you're set apart. And that set apartness is your signal. Don't silence your sensitivity. Steward it. What you sense, others can't. What you feel, others dismiss. But it's not for them. It's for you. Because you were chosen to perceive the shift before it arrives. That's why your prayers have changed. That's why you can't worship casually anymore. That's why you weep in silence and feel heaven stirring in your bones. It's not emotionalism, it's encounter. You are not crazy. You're awakening. Comment, I'm not crazy. You've been hearing the same word echo in your spirit over and over again. Gathering. It's not just about meetings. It's deeper. It's spiritual alignment, divine orchestration. A movement of marked ones being drawn by the Spirit, not by trend. Chosen one. You're not just waking up, you're being connected. You've been scattered on purpose, hidden across cities, nations, and generations. But now, heaven is calling the tribe together, not for ego, not for visibility, but for assignment. This isn't comfort-based community. This is covenant-based alignment. You've always sensed it. The longing for people who understand you without long explanations. The ones who carry your sound. The ones forged in fire like you. And now, you're being drawn into orbit with them. God is orchestrating a supernatural convergence. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about us. What God is releasing in the earth is too weighty for one vessel. It requires a body, a remnant, a company of voices, seers, builders, and intercessors, those who've walked through the dark and still chose light. This is not friendship, it's kingdom function. We're reminded in Hebrews 10:24-25 that we are to spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together. This isn't just about meeting in person, it's about spiritual frequency, divine sync, covenant fire. The tribe isn't built on preference, it's built on purpose. You may not share culture, background, or even personality, but you carry the same oil. You move in the same spirit. You discern in the same depth. That's not a coincidence. That's heaven saying, These are your people. You're no longer wandering. You're aligning. And with alignment comes acceleration. What took years now takes months. What once felt stuck now flows. Because when the right people connect under the right sound, heaven releases momentum. Your burden wasn't too heavy. You were just carrying it alone. But no more. You're being surrounded by those equipped to help you carry, build, birth. People who won't water down your fire, but will ignite it. Who won't compete, but complete. This is the kind of unity that hell fears, because it builds without striving. This message is more than confirmation, it's invitation. You felt the ache for connection, and now heaven is answering with alignment, not through platforms or personalities, but through spirit-led convergence. Don't let hesitation hold you back. This message isn't just a word, it's a witness. If your spirit is leaping, that's not hype, that's heaven. You were never designed to walk alone. You were prepared to run with others who carry the same flame. That's why this space exists. To connect the scattered, to awaken the sleeping, to help you find your people not through noise, but through spiritual clarity. If this word resonates, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Speak it. Help another chosen one find their place in the sound. Every like, every share, every subscription, it matters. It's not just support, it's participation in the movement. You are helping build a prophetic signal that heaven can use to call others home. And if this message has confirmed something you didn't know how to put into words, consider sowing into it. A seed planted in good soil always produces multiplied harvests. Giving here isn't about transaction, it's about alignment. It's saying, this is feeding me, I'll help feed others too. Whether you sow, share, or simply stay, know that you're not alone anymore. The tribe is rising. This is the hour of convergence. God is gathering the warriors, the misfits, the prophets, the burden bearers. We are many, and we are ready. No more isolation, no more delay. The sound is here, the alignment is happening, and you, chosen one, are not just invited, you're essential. They remember you as the unfinished version, the unrefined one, the version of you who was still bleeding from wounds you hadn't yet named, the one who questioned everything, including your own worth. And now that God is calling you forth, they're still trying to relate to that version of you, the one that no longer exists. Don't let familiarity blind you. You are not who you used to be. You've been through a sacred exchange. The insecure has been traded for boldness. The lost has been traded for leadership. The unsure has been transformed into a storm walker. But some people can't handle the version of you that came out of the fire. They're still relating to the ashes. You'll find that when God starts to lift you, some people will only see the ground you rose from. They'll remind you of your flaws. They'll call back your failures. They'll quote what you once said when you didn't know who you were. Not because they're evil, because they're familiar. And sometimes, familiarity breeds blindness. Even Jesus faced this. It is written in Mark 6. Sir, Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own town, among his relatives, and in his own home. A land of Jesus, the Son of God, the miracle worker, the Word made flesh, was reduced in their minds to the carpenter's son. They couldn't see him as he was, because they refused to release who he had been. And so, they missed their moment of visitation. Some will do the same to you. They'll mock your new fire. They'll question your new posture. They'll test your new authority. Why? Because your transformation confronts their stagnation. Your growth exposes their comfort. Your clarity disrupts their control. But you cannot stay small to soothe someone else's insecurity. God didn't awaken you so you could shrink back. He didn't pull you out of the pit so you could return to the shadows. You're not being arrogant, you're being obedient. You're walking in what He called you into. You're stepping into the version of yourself that aligns with heaven's blueprint. And that may cost you some relationships. You'll lose the ones who only liked you when you were broken. The ones who felt superior when you were unsure. The ones who supported you when you needed them, but now grow silent as you rise. This is not betrayal, it's transition. And if you're not careful, you'll confuse divine disconnection with rejection. You don't owe explanations for your obedience. If God said move, you move. If He said speak, you speak. If He said build, you build. No one who's tied to your next level will be offended by your obedience. Those who are offended were never sent to stay. They were sent to sharpen you, test you, grow you, and then release you. This is pruning, not punishment. And pruning always comes before fruitfulness. The temptation will be to explain yourself, to shrink, to soften the fire so others feel comfortable around it. But if God trusted you with the flame, it's because He intends for it to burn. Don't apologize for being ignited. Let it purify everything around you. You're not rising because of ego. You're rising because of assignment. What's on your life is bigger than friendship groups, bigger than childhood labels, bigger than how they used to see you. You don't belong to who you were, you belong to who He's making you. And that means you must move forward, even if it costs you being misunderstood. Some will say, "You've changed," and they'll be right. You've changed deeply, eternally, completely, but not for applause, for obedience, for alignment, for purpose. You've changed because staying the same was disobedience. And here's the truth. The ones who are sent for your next chapter will recognize you. They won't need a resume or a defense. Their spirits will know you because they've also been through fire. They've also been transformed, and they'll celebrate your glow because it mirrors their own. You're not alone in this. This is part of the chosen one's journey, being called out of the familiar into the unknown, being stripped of people-pleasing so you can walk in pure power, being trained to hear God's voice louder than public opinion. Your rise will make some uncomfortable. Let it. Your light will reveal things others wanted to keep hidden. Let it. Your anointing will unsettle atmospheres. Let it. You weren't sent to blend. You were sent to burn. So when they try to pull you back with phrases like, "You used to be different," or "Don't get too deep," or "Don't forget where you came from," remember, your history is not your prison. It's your proving ground. And the same God who brought you through it is now releasing you from it. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them remember the old you. You're too busy becoming the version heaven dreamed. Somewhere along the way, you stopped trying to explain your pain. You got tired of retelling the story. You buried the memories beneath busyness, smiled through the ache, kept moving. But deep down, the wound still whispered, not for attention, not for sympathy, but because they carried something holy. Chosen one, your pain didn't disqualify you. It prepared you. The enemy tried to convince you that your scars made you damaged. But what he didn't realize is that your scars are your credentials. They prove that you've walked through the fire and didn't bow, that you've stared down hell and didn't run, that you've wrestled with the darkness and won. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life. James 1. Sure, your scars are not symbols of defeat. They are evidence of survival. There are people who can't understand your language because they haven't lived your war. But there are also people waiting to be healed who will only trust a voice that knows what pain sounds like. You are that voice, because you've lived it. You've been broken in places that words can't reach. You've sat in silence, hoping anyone would notice the weight you carried. And they didn't. But heaven did. God never missed a single tear. And every cry birthed clarity. Your pain has made you fluent in deliverance. You can sense heaviness in others now, because you've worn it. You can spot spiritual warfare without being told, because you've fought it. You know when someone is smiling through torment because you've done it. This is what gives your voice weight. Not a microphone, not a title. Experience. You're not a theorist. You're a witness. And witnesses carry authority. The devil hates that about you because your testimony isn't hypothetical. It's lived. It's layered. It's raw. And it sets captives free. You never needed a pulpit. Your pain gave you a platform. God has trusted you with the kind of story that breaks yokes. That silences shame. That wakes up dead places in people. You didn't ask for the story, but you survived it. And now, that survival is going to become someone else's breakthrough. This is why the enemy fought you so hard. He knew what would happen if you ever healed. Because healed people don't stay silent. They become dangerous. Your pain gave you vision. It exposed who was real. It showed you what can't be faked. It taught you the difference between noise and presence. That's why you don't chase popularity, you pursue purpose. Because popularity didn't save you, God did. And that's what you carry now. Healing oil. You didn't get here through ease. You got here through encounters. Through nights you thought would never end. Through betrayals that cut deeper than knives. Through seasons of lack, loneliness, and lament. And now your spirit is awake. You can see through fake smiles now. You can hear what isn't said. You walk into rooms and feel what others hide. You're not being too much. You're being used. The pain activated your discernment. It built a well inside of you that now overflows. And others are going to drink from it. Not because you force them, but because their spirits will recognize the oil. They'll say, I don't know what it is about you, but when you speak, I feel peace. That's deliverance. That's glory. That's legacy. This is why you had to go through it first. You're a first breaker, a cycle ender, a generational pioneer. You're the one God trusted to stand in the gap when no one else would. You broke what tried to break you, and now you carry power over it. What once tormented you now obeys your voice. So don't regret the journey. Don't resent the scars. Don't hide what heaven has anointed. You've been through too much to pretend now. Own the weight. Speak the truth. Release what healed you. You are not just healed. You are healing. Comment 555 below as a prophetic act that you are not just surviving, you're stepping into your role as a healer. Let heaven and hell both know. Your pain has become your power. You've had moments where you questioned the timing, moments where you looked around and thought, why now, when others seem to already be living their purpose, launching their visions, walking confidently in their callings, you were still in the shadows, still waiting, still wrestling, still healing. But what felt like delay was actually divine precision. Chosen one, you were built for this hour. You weren't overlooked. You were preserved. God did not miss your name. He didn't forget the promise. He didn't change his mind. He was perfecting the moment, because what you carry is not common. You needed the crushing, the refining, the stretching. Because what's on your life requires strength that can't be manufactured. Esther didn't rise when she wanted to. She rose when her people needed her, when destruction was imminent, when voices were silent. That's when God activated the one who'd been prepared in silence. And just like her, you've been brought to the kingdom for such a time as this. When you wanted to be seen, God hid you. When you were ready to speak, God said, "Wait." When you thought your time had passed, heaven was still counting down to the moment he ordained. Now, the time has come. Everything about your design matches the demands of this moment. The intensity of your life, the warfare, the deep emotional processing, the isolation was all proof that God was forming something in you that couldn't be rushed. Some are born in ease. You were born in intercession. You've been living a slow burn while the world rushed by in quick sparks, and while others fizzled out under the weight of speed, you've been deepening, rooting, maturing. That's why you don't speak from excitement. You speak from authority. You don't move to impress. You move when heaven breathes. That's the difference. You've been trained to respond to God, not pressure. And that makes you trustworthy. God's not raising celebrities, he's raising stewards. And you're one of them. The timing may feel strange to your mind, but your spirit knows. It's not too late. It's not too early. You were timed. Even your delays were prophetic. Even your detours carried preparation. Nothing has been wasted. The time you spent being broken down is now the foundation you'll build others on. The time you spent in hiding is now the strength that holds you steady in visibility. And this moment is no accident. The earth is groaning. Truth is rare. Discernment is scarce. Voices are loud but shallow. But you carry depth. You carry clarity. You carry the sound of a surrendered soul. That's why your rising had to wait, because heaven was preserving the voice that wouldn't compromise. You are the answer to a question the world hasn't fully asked yet. And when that question rises, your voice will already be ready. Your presence will already be positioned. Your mantle will already be moving. That's the power of God's timing. It's not about being the first. It's about being sent. And when God sends you, there's no resistance that can stop you. Not even time itself. Don't despise your process. Don't curse the slowness. Don't mourn what looked like missed opportunities. Nothing God ordains is ever wasted. Even what you called failure, He called formation. It took time to develop the oil you now carry. Not because you were weak, but because He was building something weighty. And now you know why the warfare was so relentless. Because what you carry isn't for entertainment, it's for eternity. It shifts hearts, awakens spirits, breaks chains, confronts darkness. And heaven knows. This is your hour. Walk in it. Silently, if needed. Boldly, when prompted, but with full confidence that heaven timed your emergence with divine precision. You were not late. You were preserved for this very moment. Some days, the weight feels unbearable, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're carrying something right. There's a heaviness to obedience, a burden that cannot be explained to casual hearts. And chosen one, you've felt it for a long time. You may have whispered it quietly to yourself, Why is this so heavy? Not everyone feels the call like you do. Not everyone senses the urgency, the invisible pull, the constant stirring in your spirit. You've been asked to carry more, see more, feel more. And with that comes weight. Weight, that's not punishment, but purpose. The mantle on your life is not decorative. It's not just for identity, it's for impact. And the greater the impact, the greater the weight. Elijah felt it. Jeremiah felt it. Even Jesus, in Gethsemane, felt it. This pressure of destiny, this trembling of spirit, the cry that says, "If it be possible, take this from me." Not because you're unwilling, but because you know the cost. But with every crushing comes increase. The mantle is heavy because it is sacred. It touches lives beyond your own. Your yes isn't isolated, it has ripple effects. Generations will be altered because of what you chose to carry. Even when no one clapped for it. Even when no one helped. Even when the load nearly broke you. You weren't imagining the pressure. You weren't being dramatic. You were discerning the gravity of what heaven entrusted to you. To carry a mantle is to carry assignment, and not just any assignment, a heaven-born, hell-fought, legacy-anchored assignment. The kind that wakes you up at night, the kind that won't leave your mind, the kind that burdens you even when everything around you looks fine. You don't carry ideas, you carry atmospheres. You don't just shift people, you shift climates. That's why you feel drained after certain conversations. That's why you're cautious about who gets close. Because the mantle carries power, and power must be guarded. David couldn't walk in Saul's armor not because he was weak, but because his assignment required a different weight. You can't wear what others wear. You can't mimic what others do. What rests on you was custom forged. Isaiah 10:27 says, "The yoke is broken because of the anointing." But what we forget is, the anointing comes with crushing. Oil doesn't drip out of olives until pressure is applied. That pressure you felt, it's not proof of failure. It's proof of oil. And when the oil flows, yokes break, not just for you, but for those around you. The heaviness is holy, not to torment you, but to transform everything you touch. You're not just called, you're trusted. God trusts you with spiritual weight others would collapse under. He trusts you to carry discernment without pride, authority without ego, compassion without compromise. That trust is why your life has felt like boot camp while others coasted. Because mantle bearers can't be casual. You can't entertain what others entertain. You can't compromise where others bend. Your yes has weight. Your silence has weight. Your prayers echo. Your presence disrupt darkness. That's the kind of mantle you carry. So don't resent the heaviness. Don't envy the weightless. God didn't choose you for ease. He chose you for effect, and your presence carries it. Even when you're quiet, even when you're tired, even when you don't feel anointed, you still are. The weight doesn't leave because the calling doesn't lift. But here's the secret. What once felt unbearable soon becomes familiar. Not because it gets lighter, but because you get stronger. Heaven increases your capacity as you remain surrendered. You've been stretched, yes, but not broken. You've been pressed, yes, but not crushed. The mantle that once crushed your shoulders now rests as armor. You've been built for this. Slowly, painfully, beautifully. You carry what others weren't meant to, because you're not like the others. You never were. And no matter how heavy it feels, remember this. You were trusted with it. There's a sound in the spirit, A low, rising hum that's getting louder every day. The stirring of the remnant. The gathering of those heaven has trained in silence. Chosen one. You can feel it. And whether you realize it or not, you're not just hearing the sound, you are the sound. Heaven has declared a gathering, not a social event, not a trend, a holy convergence of those who've been hidden, refined, and are now being positioned. You weren't kept apart because you were unworthy. You were kept consecrated, separated not by accident, but by assignment. And now the trumpet is sounding. The chosen ones are being summoned, not to perform, but to stand, not to compete, but to collaborate, not to mimic culture, but to confront darkness. Your voice matters in this moment. Your presence is needed. What you carry cannot be replaced. What's happening is bigger than one message, bigger than one channel. This is kingdom momentum, a wave of prophetic clarity that is waking up the weary, sharpening the distracted, and recommissioning the rejected. You may have felt disconnected, alone, unnoticed, but the divine signal has gone out, and it's reaching those who carry the same oil as you. It's aligning mantles. It's activating buried gifts. It's exposing deception. The fire is spreading, and heaven is using every means, including this message, to ignite it. In Joel 2:e, we read, "Blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on my holy hill. Let all who live in the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming." That's what this is, the sound of the alarm. It's not a call to fear, it's a call to focus, to gather, to unite, to take your place. Because when the tribe comes together, things shift. When one voice rises, it breaks the silence. But when the remnant rises, it breaks the system that told you to wait until you're perfect. The system that asked you to perform instead of pray. The system that told you to hide your scars and soften your light. That system cannot contain what heaven is building. You were born to move differently. And now, others are awakening because you refuse to stay asleep. Let this message serve as a divine confirmation. The time to stay on the sidelines has ended. It's time to engage. This is a call to participate, to stand up, to speak up, to step forward. This channel isn't just here to inspire, it's here to ignite. And if it's been doing that for you, then do what the tribe does: respond. Like this message, so the signal keeps spreading. Share it with someone whose spirit is stirring. Subscribe to stay aligned with what God is releasing, not just weekly, but strategically. And if this space has become a spiritual lifeline for you, consider sowing into it. When you give, you're not just supporting a video, you're fueling a movement. You're helping multiply the reach of the sound. You're investing in kingdom disruption. There's no pressure, only invitation. But don't just be a receiver, be a responder. Let your giving, your sharing, your commenting become a declaration. I'm part of this move. I recognize this sound. I will not let this moment pass me by. Every word released here is prayed over, carried carefully, spoken with weight. And when you engage, it doesn't just encourage the messenger, it amplifies the message. So rise, chosen one. Let your presence be felt in this hour. Let your agreement be visible. Let your sound be added to the rising roar of the remnant. Heaven has declared a gathering, and you've just heard the trumpet. This isn't the end. It's only the beginning. You've heard it before. Gentle whispers in your spirit, nudges you couldn't ignore, confirmations that came uninvited, yet struck with accuracy. Still, something in you hesitated. You felt the weight of the instruction, the sacrifice of obedience. You wanted clarity, signs, assurance that the risk was worth it. But chosen one, in this season, obedience is no longer optional, it is urgent. This is a window, a moment that will not wait forever. You've been entrusted with revelation, and now heaven is watching for your response. Not perfection, not performance. Obedience. What God is requiring of you in this hour will cost you comfort. It will cost you familiarity. But the price of disobedience is far greater than the price of surrender. There are doors that open only in obedience, and there are moments, holy windows of divine timing, that when missed, don't return the same way again. This is one of those moments. You've asked God to speak. He has. You've asked Him to lead. He is. But now the question is, will you move? Will you risk misunderstanding for the sake of alignment? Will you step when no one else affirms you, simply because His voice confirmed it? There's a sobering truth found in Hebrews 10, where it says, if we deliberately keep on sinning after we have received the knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sins is left. Obedience is not just about direction, it's about protection. There are assignments that come with a timestamp. There are instructions that are only effective in a certain season. Delay can dull the edge of divine strategy. Mercy is abundant, yes, but even mercy knows when to step back and let consequence teach what comfort could not. This isn't fear, it's reality. Heaven is not playing with this generation. The time for spiritual procrastination has expired. You've been circling the same instructions for too long, praying over what you already know, seeking confirmation when God has already made it clear. And while you stall, ground is being lost. Because the truth is, delayed obedience is still disobedience. You think you're being careful, but caution has become a cover for fear. You say you're waiting on God, but really, He's waiting on you. The strategy is in your spirit. The blueprint is in your bones. Now it's time to move. The next level of clarity will come after your yes, that conversation you've been avoiding. It's part of your healing. That leap you've been postponing. It's part of your provision. That release you've been resisting. It's part of your freedom. The longer you delay, the heavier the burden becomes, and the more familiar you become with disobedience, the harder it is to discern His voice. Disobedience doesn't always look like rebellion. Sometimes it looks like hesitation, but hesitation can be fatal to a move of God. God has grace for your weakness, but He cannot bless what you refuse to do. And what's waiting on the other side of your obedience? It's not just personal breakthrough. It's generational unlocking. Your yes is tied to others. Your surrender is someone else's sign. You carry something that's not just for you. Don't bury it in fear. Heaven is still speaking, but for how long? There comes a time when the gentle prompting turns into silence, not because He's left you, but because you've tuned Him out for too long, and He will not shout over your distractions. He speaks to the hungry, the yielded, the ready. This is your moment. You know what He's been asking. You feel it in your chest. You hear it in the quiet. It's not vague. It's not unclear. It's just costly. But what you'll gain in obedience is far greater than anything fear could try to protect. So this is the choice. Comfort or calling. Heaven is watching, not with anger but with hope, watching to see if you'll finally rise. Finally obey. Finally step into the thing he showed you, in the secret place. The window is open, but not forever. The pressure you've been carrying wasn't coincidental. It wasn't an emotional phase. It wasn't something you could shake off or sleep away. It was the weight of destiny, pressing from within, pushing you toward a breaking point, not to destroy you, but to birth you, chosen one. You've reached the moment everything was building toward. This is not about a sudden spark of motivation. It's not about surface-level hype or inspiration. This is about a divine culmination. Years of being misunderstood. Seasons of unexplainable silence. Cycles of loss. Refining. Reordering. It's all converging right now. Heaven is activating what it placed in you before time even began. This is the moment you were hidden for. You didn't understand why others passed you. Why you felt so heavy when nothing was wrong. Why spiritual warfare followed you like a shadow. It wasn't punishment. It was protection. You've been kept beneath the surface, like a seed, covered, pressed, watered in secret. Not buried to die, buried to break open at the right time. That time is now. You're not the same person who entered the wilderness. You're not the same one who questioned if God still saw you. That former version of you, fragile, hesitant, unsure, is gone. What's emerging now is someone who knows, someone who hears, someone who moves not by impulse, but by divine instruction. This is the hour where you stand, not because everything is perfect, not because everything feels easy, but because your foundation has been laid in fire. You know how to survive storms. You've worshipped through closed doors. You've held on to faith when prayers seemed unanswered. You've learned to trust God's hand when you couldn't trace his plan. That's what makes you dangerous now. Hell hoped you'd give up in the process, that you'd surrender in silence, that you'd stop believing, stop obeying, stop seeking. But you didn't. You kept coming back, kept praying, kept burning, even if it was just embers. That consistency forged in silence is now becoming your sound, and the earth needs your sound. Romans 8:19 says, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." Creation is not waiting on the loudest. It's waiting on the revealed. What does that mean? It means the unveiling of the ones who've been forged in the presence of God, the ones who've died to themselves daily, the ones who don't need the crowd to move, the ones who walk with heaven's blueprints in their chest. You are one of those. You weren't designed to follow trends. You were built to shift timelines. Your voice is not an echo, it's a signal. You don't walk into rooms to fit in, you walk in to change the air. You carry divine disruption. And the reason you felt so much resistance is because of the size of what you carry. You've been assigned to rise in a time of collapse, to carry clarity into confusion, to walk in purity in a culture of compromise, to intercede when others entertain. That's why the weight has felt so intense. You're not just stepping into purpose, you're stepping into prophetic placement. And this placement comes with responsibility. You don't have the luxury of spiritual laziness. You don't have the option of blending in. Your life is not your own. Your time is not random. Everything about you has been crafted for this exact season. You're not stepping into the spotlight. You're stepping into your post. You were born for this, not by accident, not by ambition, but by divine appointment. The same God who preserved you in fire is now releasing you in favor. The same God who taught you in silence is now trusting you with a sound. So rise. Don't wait for more confirmations. Don't delay another season. The spiritual window is open. What you do now won't just affect your life, it will mark others. You are part of the answer to someone else's cry. Your rising will ripple into realms you haven't even seen yet. You are no longer waiting. You are being revealed. The hidden has been refined. The refined is now being released. You are not walking into your moment. You are the moment. Chosen one, pause and breathe this in. You made it to the edge, to the moment of unveiling, to the place where the wilderness ends and the commission begins. Let this sink into your bones. You were hidden for this hour, not because you were unworthy, but because you were marked. Now, the rising begins. But don't rise alone. Others are still wandering, still doubting, still searching for the sound that woke you up. You have the power to echo what stirred your spirit. Every share, every like, every comment. It's not just engagement, it's activation. You're helping call home another hidden one. Comment below, leave a mark. Let the algorithm know that heaven is moving through more than data. Let hell know that the tribe is not just waking up, it's uniting. Subscribe if you haven't already. This space was created for moments like these, for the hidden, for the remnant, for the ones rising with no map but the voice of God. Here, you're not just fed, you're aligned. And if this message lit something in your chest, consider sowing into it. Your support keeps this sound alive. It helps carry truth where darkness thought it had the last word. No pressure, no manipulation, just a simple truth. When you feed what feeds you, the well deepens for everyone. We've reached the end of this script, but it's only the beginning of your emergence. You are chosen. You are unshakable. And you are right on time.